Unity of the Huachucas presents Susan Smith, LUT.
The Peace of Release.
And as I was thinking about it, I was thinking, wow, 30 years ago, I never would have imagined I would be here with you today, giving a spiritual talk with you. And for two reasons. And this really relates to this idea of release, that we have to let go of our fears, our ideas of limitation, our ideas that we can't do something or it's not for us, in order for us to step into our fullness and to grow and be the divine spiritual beings of purpose, which each of us is. So 30 years ago, I would not have been able to get up and say my name to you without my heart feeling like it was going to come out of my body. And I assure you, as quickly as I did that, I would have sat back in my chair. And I would not have been able to even pay any attention to anything that was said beforehand, because I would have been so frightened of public speaking, because that's where I was at. Now, I was really lucky and fortunate that my mom and my sister Karen gave me a Dale Carnegie horse to take. And I overcame a great deal of that fear. And then I did Toastmasters, because I realized it was fun. I'm like, I like having people pay attention to me, people. I have things to say. I like it. And it's creative, it's an outlet for me. So I'm like, wow, I like this. But the only reason I was able to get to this point to you today is I had to let go of the fear and the concern and the stress that I was caused by holding on to my fear of public speaking. I held on to that. My worry about not being good enough. My worry that people were going to think less of me. I don't know what it was, honestly. So that was a part of my release journey. The peace of release that allows me to be here with you today. And then the other part was, it wasn't till about 25 years ago that I found unity. And that was also a journey of going through my fears. I wrote down, I was at a critical juncture in my life, and I wrote down everything that fear was keeping me from, and Have a Spiritual Practice was on there in neon. I'm like, oh wow. I didn't even realize I was missing that. I grew up pretty much unchurched. Do the Golden Rule. That was my church, basically. It was a good one. Love Jesus, because I love what Jesus said. But otherwise, I was very unspiritual. But I did some research. I walked into my first Unity church and said, this is where I belong. This is my place. And here I am today. So that's what the peace of release can give us. But we have to let things go before we can hold on to the new things and get the new things. So that's what I want to talk about today. So this morning I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean more about release. I know you've been talking about it all month, but I want to talk a little bit more about what I mean when I talk about the peace of release. I'm going to talk a little bit about how power intersects with that. And then I'm just going to give you some demonstrations, some examples of how the peace of release can be something you can use to unlock all of those, what I'm going to call 12 superpowers. Because it's when we're holding on to things, we don't have room then to access our wisdom. We don't have room then to remember our strength, to remember our faith, to remember our imagination. When we allow and release, then we're opening ourselves up to all the 12 divine attributes which make up our divine identity. It's exciting. I'm calling them 12 superpowers, people. Get ready to put on your capes. Okay. So what do I mean by release? And I know some of you might have heard this before. Never hurts to repeat. I've been studying the 12 powers for like 20 years. And I just always find another nugget, another thing, and repetition helps me. So according to Charles Fillmore, Unity co-founder, writer of the book 12 Powers, the power of release is the faculty by which we release false belief and accomplish a mental cleansing. That's a great word, mental cleansing. I just found that very pleasant. Like, just how when you take a shower and you feel so much better, right? It's peaceful. So that's what we're talking about. It's not about pretending that things are differently than they are, because it's about consciousness. It's about thoughts, ideas, beliefs that we hold that are limiting, and letting that go. Having to come to our attention, like my fear of public speaking, and like, oh, I'm afraid of this. There's something, I've always done the best I can, because we always are, but there's something within the conditions and the conditioning of my life that made me very afraid of speaking in front of people. But I was willing to let that go, and then allow myself to know my strength, know my wisdom, know what was mine to do, and have faith that I could do it. So that's what it is. It's not about conditions, it's about how we're thinking about conditions. All right? And I like the way that Myrtle Fillmore puts it in How to Let God Help You. Myrtle Fillmore is a co-founder of Unity with Charles Fillmore. And unless you heed this instruction, drop the unwise things you have been insisting upon, and begin to think of God in you and about you as the total fullness of every good, you will seem to go through an eternity of confusion and lack and hungering. So drop the unwise things you have been insisting upon. And even if it's unwise things that you know you don't want to insist upon, but somehow it's within your consciousness. That's why that relaxed piece is so important. Something comes to your attention, you feel it tensing up in your body. You feel that resistance coming up in your mind. You feel some sort of blockage. That's when, okay, I can relax. I'm insisting upon something that's not helpful to me. And when we're talking about thinking about God, that's that one power, one presence, which each and every one of us is an expression of. And it's those 12 aspects of it, of which each of us is. That's what we're talking about. So it's not necessarily about circumstances. For instance, I've recently had a little health issue. I had a little thing going on with my scalp. And I do, sometimes it makes me nervous, you know, and I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but I just have to keep having, I know that I have divine ideas. So when I feel my stress and worry come, I'm not going to pretend, oh, it's not happening. I'm going to go, no, I'm equipped to handle this. So I call the doctor, and then when treatment didn't work, I call them back, and they saw me, and they're treating me, and I do what they say to do, and then I'm going to go again, and eventually, you know, it will get resolved. My body knows what to do to heal. So I know I have my faith that knows this. I have my imagination to see, okay, one day this is going to be all done, and I can see and be so grateful and appreciate and harmonize with all the love and help and care I'm getting from my doctors and my, care. So I'm not pretending something isn't happening, but I'm letting go of that hold that fear and concern have on me, and to choose instead of a release of peace, the peace of release. Letting that go, and then taking the steps. So that's what I mean. So how does power come into this? So power comes into all of our 12 powers, because power is basically just that we have dominion or power over our powers. That we get to choose, that we, if you're not familiar with 12 powers, we have 12 powers or attributes, and that we use them consciously or unconsciously. We're always using them. And they're very basic things that we have: faith, imagination, love, wisdom, understanding. Those are few. They're very basic things we have, and we either use them in a conscious way or we use them in an unconscious way. So when we remember our power of dominion, we're going, oh, I get to choose how to use my power of wisdom. I get to choose where I place my faith. I could place my faith in my worry and concern, and I'm not saying that doesn't pop up. It does. But no, I go, no, power of dominion, 12 superpowers, I'm going to choose to place my faith somewhere else. I'm going to let go of that fear and worry. And I'm going to choose to say, okay, I'm going to place my faith that I know what needs to be done, that I can see an end to this situation, and that my body is naturally healing, because it is. Because that's the truth. And I'm a divine, timeless being regardless of what happens to this physical body. And I'm surrounded by love every step of the way. There's nothing to fear. So that is what we're talking about. So you've got your power. You've got the power. And I wrote a poem called You've Got the Power. And you guys know I love music. I don't know if you know this, but I love music. So this was inspired by the song, You've Got the Power. Boom, 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 boom. I don't mind. If you like it, go for it. It'll give you a little motivation. And I wrote this poem. And this really says everything I kind of want to say about power anyway. So I'm going to read this poem to you, and then I'm going to allow you a couple minutes to kind of reflect on that term, I've got the power. And we'll allow that to be our time of meditation. You can close your eyes while I read the poem or not. It's up to you. It's called I've Got the Power. And again, these words are to be written on your heart. All right? I've got the power. Yes, it's true. I've got the power, and so do you. I've got the power to choose what I think and feel. I've got the power. How I see and feel the world I live in is always up to me. I've got the power. Today is the day my divine identity has made. I've got the power to see things the way I want them to be. I've got the power to choose what I focus attention on. I've got the power to choose to feel my feelings and know however unpleasant they may be, they are temporary and provide information about what is happening in my subconsciousness. I've got the power. I have dominion over how I use my abilities. I've got the power. It doesn't matter if this is true in the material realm or not. I've got the power. No one can force me to think or feel in any way I don't agree with. I've got the power. I might remind myself of this time and again. Sometimes I forget the truth that I have dominion over how I think. Sometimes I think that other people and circumstances outside my control have dominion over me. Sometimes I think that unless I see the whole map of my future, that I'm helpless and at the mercy of changing circumstances. Sometimes I need to stop and breathe and remember that the power I seek is always within my hands. Whether I know this for a fact or not doesn't make it more or less true. I've got the power. I breathe in and know. Go ahead and breathe in and know. I've got the power. If it's to be, it's up to me. These words of wisdom from another source remind me that the whole world of my life is in my hands. I proclaim with joy and happiness, I've got the power, and with this recognition, I know that you have the power within you too. So give yourself a couple moments. Say these words to yourself. I've got the power. Okay, just say those words to yourself just one more time. Maybe just kind of maybe put your hand to your heart. Just remember, you can always remember this. I've got the power. Anytime you need to remember those words, kind of seal that in your consciousness. And then go ahead and gently bring your attention back to the room. All right. So, I've got the power. If you're seeing that all day, and it's an earworm, hopefully it's a good one for you. Okay, so when we talk about this, we're really talking about activating, when we're talking about release, we're talking about activating all of our powers, allowing, releasing, and then allowing ourselves to embrace all our other 12 superpowers. And I'm saying 12 superpowers because release can also bring some need for some more release, right? They're kind of all work together in a wonderful, like, recipe designed way. It's your own thing what you need. But one of the things, this was a quote I had from Linda Martolowicz, who wrote Divine Audacity. She said, "In the activity of spiritual release, we cross out in consciousness our only human sense of self, so that the true self, our divine identity, rises in prominence in all that we think, say, and do." And our divine identity is always there. We're not human, and then we remember we're divine, and then we're divine. We're always 100% divine. We're always 100% human. It's just in consciousness where we're remembering. I like what Reverend Linda says, we're divine humans. I love that term. That's who we are. We're always there. So you're not trying to find it. You're trying to, like, remember it. That's what we're really working on here. And it's a spiritual practice. We just keep working on it and working on it and working on it. So I really like the way she said that. And when we talk about our divine identity, is expressing fully those 12 attributes. And you can add whatever attributes you want, but what we teach is the 12 powers in unity. We're really activating our Christ consciousness, and that's a great way to do it. So what are some examples? And I can tell you, I just love the 12 powers. And I brought my little demonstration. One of the things Reverend Linda suggests is like making a symbol for each power. So I have, like, this is my little symbol for each power, and I have this on my desk. And when I do my prayers, I'll just like, what am I looking for? Oh, imagination, the rainbow. Yeah, I really want to imagine something different. I don't want to worry. I want to use my imagination to worry. I want to imagine possibilities, endless possibilities. You know, I want understanding. I want peace. To me, that's peace. So anyway, they're fun. It's fun stuff, you guys. Your 12 superpowers. I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she's like, what if Superman was real? She goes, I just wish Superman was real. And, you know, with our 12 superpowers, I think we really are superheroes in our own way. You know? And when we use the power and the peace of release, it's kind of like our going into that transformation into the phone booth and changing and putting on our cloak. So kind of use that as your imagination. Think about that. So what are some ways we can use it? So the best way to use our power of release is to be gentle. It's a cleansing. You know, Myrtle Fillmore used to call it like using a feather duster. And just, you know, not trying to scratch out something. I don't know about you, but I have things in my consciousness I would just love to get rid of. And I keep holding out faith that I will someday. And then they pop back up again, and I'm like, okay. You know, I've got some work to do on that. That's okay. This is what I'm here for you. And we thank them when they come to our attention. When something comes to our attention that we're holding on so hard to, that we can't let go of our grasp and get something else, we can think it's like, okay, there's something in my subconscious that has some work to do. There's something here that's brought to my attention. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Thanks but no thanks for the fear and the concern and the worry. Okay, thanks for the attention. No, thanks but no thanks is what I would say. Gentle. Gentle. So this is what Myrtle Fillmore said. She said, the cleansing action of release is meant to be gentle, allowing rather than forcing. So thanks for the awareness, but no thanks to all of the, you know, the lack and the limitation and all of that stuff that comes with it. No, don't want that. Thank you. I kind of like to think of like an etch sketch, like, no, thanks, no. So what are some things that we can use this for? So for me, I think one of the most ones is that I can't, right? I can't do something. That's not me. Now, it might be your personal preference. If it's your personal preference, that's one thing. But if you're feeling you're really holding tight to an identity, because somewhere in your subconscious, in your conditioning, in your training, in living in this current time and place, somebody's told you that you can't be something that really is part of who you truly know you are, or know that you can do, that's a point of like, okay, can I let that go? Can I let that I can't go? You know, like my public speaking, I let that go. which is kind of amazing. I'm sorry to really pat myself on the back today, but when I think about that, I was absolutely terrified. It's incredible that I was able to let that go, but it's not, because we got our 12 superpowers, and I used it. So when it comes to I can't do something. That's not me. You ever say that? That's not me. Maybe it isn't, or maybe you gave up on that somehow. I went to a party yesterday, and it was Western wear, and I've never just been a Western wear person. I don't know why. It's just never been my thing. And I'm like, what do I wear? And I'm like, but I was willing to just let that. That's not me. I know I said this to my roommate. That's not me. But I'm like, but I did. I let that go. I released it. I relaxed it. Released, let go. I surrendered that idea. I went to Goodwill. I bought all sorts of fun stuff. Even got some boots, you guys. I have boots now. Maybe I'll wear them for y'all someday. I want my boots. These boots are made for. Okay, that's another time. So I went to Goodwill. I found the fun stuff. I did a fashion. I had so much fun dressing up, and I let go of this idea of how other people were going to perceive me, right? And then I had to go to this party. Well, I'm not a party person either, people. I'm like, well, I'm not a party person. And it was interesting how I'm coming up with these things, but we just have to let it go. How do I do that? It comes to my awareness. Anytime I say, I'm not this person, but is that true? Am I holding on to something? You ever heard that story of, there's a story in a book, and I can't remember the book, of a kid, and they go out and they're catching raccoons. And the way they do is they put a cage, and they put something inside the cage that the raccoon wants. And the raccoon reaches their hand in, and they grasp it. And they cannot get their hand out unless they ungrasp it. And they won't. They won't ungrasp their hand, and then they catch it. What are we grasping? What are we holding in ourselves in a cage? What are your I can'ts? That's not me. And when we do that, we're limiting ourselves. Because when we let go of the idea that I can't do something, and we just say, thanks, but no thanks. I choose the power of release, the peace of release. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm choosing peace of release. I'm choosing to know I have wisdom and all the ideas I need in order to do what's right to do. I'm choosing to imagine myself a new way. I'm choosing to have faith that other people will accept me just as I am. See how it opens up a whole world? And that's what we do. So another example would be, how about this idea that you're powerless? Ever feel powerless in a situation? Well, that's another thing. You look at something like, what can I do? There's nothing I can do. And it makes you feel bad. You're holding on to a thought, an idea, something limited. I'm not saying that all of us are going to be able to go out and fix, like we have world peace today, right? War is prominent in many of our minds. But we can do something. We can let go of this idea that I am powerless, and then unlock the world of possibilities. What is the wisdom? What is the divine idea for me to make the world a better place? Where is my love? What am I going to harmonize with to share more love? And let it ripple forth in ways unseen. It could be a kindness to a person in a grocery store. It could be contributing to your community right here. Any way that we can love, any way that we are creative ideas and problem solvers, we are not helpless. I see a lot of homeless people in Tucson. It's really huge right now. But I volunteer every week at the Women's Center. And I do a bingo game, and it seems so silly. It really feels, we just have a silly good time. I sing songs. Just imagine me doing bingo. All I'm saying, it's about as kooky as it can get. And we just have a good old, we have the song, shake, 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 shake the bingo bag, and they all sing along. And it's just my way of bringing a little joy. Is it fixing the homeless problem? No. But maybe it's mending someone's heart a little bit. And it's helping the people who run the center. And it's doing something. We're not helpless. But if I hold on to this idea that I'm helpless, I'm not going to be able to release that and do what I can do. And who knows what other problem? Maybe we all get together, we can solve that problem. It's endless field of if it's possible to God, it is possible to you. That's Charles Fillmore quote. So that's another one. The other one I just want to talk about is just this idea that you might be, there's several others, but you might be fixated on the way things should be. You ever gotten into that one? That can be a really limiting way of thinking. Thinking about the way things should be, or maybe even thinking about the way the past should have been. Be it a regret you have, be it anger, or frustration. It may be very, very valid. Things might have happened to you that were very difficult, or you might have done something that you need to make amends for. But all of our 12 powers are right here, right now. This is where we meet them. So if we let go of how we think things should be, and that's a tough one. It's a tough one for me. But if we can when it comes to your mind, go, okay, I can relax. What if I just relaxed and knew that all was well in just this moment? And then I can let go and release. Let's just, for just 1 minute, let's let it go. And then can I surrender to my highest and greatest good? Can I do that? And open up to the possibilities of what is really possible. It can be silly things like I go to a restaurant. I remember going to Panera once. I'm embarrassed to share this, but I will. I went to Panera once, and they changed their menu. And I'm one of these people. I order the same thing. Don't change it. I like this. And this poor person behind the counter, I was not kind to them. And later on, I'm like, oh, that was not one of my better moments. But you get attached to the way things are. And then there's bigger things. There's cultural things telling us how we should be, who we should be. Aging for me has been something. My body is changing. Again, I'm not denying that. It is a different, I tell people, it's like, well, I kind of have I call myself a young senior. I'm 61, so I call myself a young senior. I live with someone who's 91. So, I can't, but I'm a young senior. And I'm starting to see some changes in my body. And I'm like, I've sort of got a new owner's manual. And that's how I see it. I'm like, okay, well now let's see how this owner, but I'm opening up to that wisdom. I'm opening up to the order. I'm opening up to the imagination, the faith, all of those things. But, we have a culture that's like, no, you shouldn't age. Defy your age. Look younger. One of our greatest, you look great for your age. I just think that's the weirdest thing we say to people. It's so weird. And I'm not in any way saying that you shouldn't do what you want for your own aesthetic. And that includes anything. This is your body, and do whatever you want to do in order to feel the way you want to feel. But I think when we hang on to this idea that we're not supposed to age, it's not helpful. I don't think it's helpful. We don't have to age either in a way that says we have to be put out to pasture either. We get to decide and make the narrative our own. But we can let go of this idea that we don't have to look a certain age or anything about our bodies. Let's recognize what's going on, and then we have the wisdom, the divine order, the strength, everything we need to do what we need to do. So that's something I would suggest. So hopefully this week, you all will remember, the peace of release. Because it's so important. When you have the peace of release, it is your transformative power to get into that phone book and put on your cloak of the 12 superpowers. Thank you very much.